Hi, everybody. This is Samrat Kishore. I welcome you all to the Baseline Show. We do this every Wednesday at noontime EST, 6 p.m. Central European Time, and 9:30 p.m. in India. We bring together leaders from all across the world from various industries to talk about data silos, data transformation, data sharing trends, and explore the baseline protocol. Was somebody saying something? Okay, I thought there was a feedback. Okay, cool. So on today's show, we have a very special announcement to make, which is about the upcoming Technical Steering Committee elections for the baseline protocol. Very exciting times are indeed, and 2022 has been very eventful for the protocol. We grew by community at least 2 times. We have massively, we had a very clear roadmap. Some of the work has been already completed and presented. Some of the work is out in the open for companies to bid for and make some dollars. And there are, there are tons of exciting announcements and outreach initiatives that we participate in almost every week now. So that is very exciting. Times are getting more and more interesting as we head towards the next year and the end of this year. Before the holiday season sets in, we're going to be we're trying to finish off our planning for the next year as well. So with that, I would like to invite Claudia here from Oasis to announce the elections and the procedures which will follow. Following that, we will move on to our today's guest, which is Sristhi from Settlement, and we're going to be talking about various avenues for enterprise adoption of blockchain and explore if baseline could be taken to multiple places with settlements work that you're already doing. Okay, so Claudia, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'll make it short and hopefully sweet. I work for Oasis Open, and I'm the Open Projects Program Manager for those who don't know me. That's why I'm here to announce that we're opening the call for nominations for the 2022-2023 Technical Steering Committee for the Baseline Community. As a member of the steering committee, you would be able to lead the work, the technical direction, work on the roadmap for the Baseline community, and recommend finished work to the project governing board of the EA community projects. The Baseline community is part of that larger open project. I don't want to bore you with too many details. Our timeline is as follows. We have a 2-week nomination period for candidates for the Technical Steering Committee. There is a form on the Oasis Open website. We will send an email to the Baseline community mailing list. There's a couple of them. One is the main Baseline community mailing list. We will post the link for the form and the Baseline community Slack channel as well. So if you want to nominate yourself, or if you know a person who should be on the Technical Steering Committee, you can nominate this person as well. You need to ask them before if they want that, obviously. So the nomination form will be open until the 14th of October. So we're starting today. That's 2 weeks from today. And then there will be a opportunity to meet the candidates on the Baseline show on the 19th of October, hopefully. And from the 20th of October to the 3rd of November will be a 2-week election period. People who have committed to various of the Baseline repositories in the past 6 months will be eligible voters on this for this election. All of the details are published on the Baseline governance site, and I will also put all these details in the emails to the community mailing list and the Slack channel. If you have any questions, you can reach me on the Baseline Slack. My name is Claudia. Or you can email me on the op-admin, op-admin@oasisopen.org email if you have any questions about this process. Yeah, I think that's it from me for now, unless any of you has anything to add or to ask at this point.
One question is, how long do people have to submit a PR that gets merged and become an eligible voter? Can they do that up until voting starts, during voting?
Yes, they can do that up until voting starts, not during the voting period. So up until the 19th of October, people can do that.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, super. So I'm sure a lot of people would wake up and commit if you've not committed yet to the Baseline repository. I'm going to paste some links on the chat as well as on the description of the video so that you're all able to access it. And, of course, we keep posting it on LinkedIn and the Slack group as well. So please do commit, become an eligible voter, have a voice in the Baseline ecosystem by becoming part of the technical steering committee. Give shape to an upcoming standard. It's intellectual property work. It is amazing. It will give you lots of benefits on your professional as well as personal life, personal satisfaction, fulfillment, and sense of contribution to the society. Do that. Okay, I can definitely talk a little about my experience of being involved with Baseline over 2 years now. There are tons of OGs here on the call itself. Of course, Andreas has been since the beginning, supporting creating the standard and successfully submitting it for ratification. Mark has been around almost about the same time when I also came in. And yes, Sonal came in to put things in order. There was a lot of chaos before Sonal was here, so yeah, I've been very thankful and grateful. This whole team has come together really well, and we've all taken up our respective positions and sort of played our roles to bring Baseline so far. And then came the GM gang, Mark, Keith, and Yoav, as they had started. They had started as individual contributors who are now the leaders of something called as Baseline Labs within Consensus. Interesting stuff, right? So that's a clear story that we see, of people making careers or potentially making careers out of it. There are also companies, there are contributors and sponsors which have joined Baseline over these 2.5 years of existence, and then these sponsors have actually drawn value out of the contribution. They've renewed their commitment to Baseline. There are also companies who found business, so they've made real dollars doing Baseline work. And then there are individuals who've made money in terms of grants. There was also a program which we ran called Blips. It's still running, which is Baseline improvement proposals. So you can actually come in, start contributing anytime you would like. You can propose improvements to the standard which is submitted, or actually improvements to anything that we do. The grants can be of any nature. We can be doing outreach we can be doing outreach initiatives. We can be doing you can be doing core devs work. You can also be working on research. So we are actually investing a lot of effort, very ably led by Mark Rimza. So where we're putting together a lot of research so that there's adoption in the industry, and people have a basis of making a business case. We're also making a big investment in an IDC report. So IDC has been brought on board, and they're going to be conducting a research for us. We are can I reveal the number? But yeah, I mean it's 6 figures. Interesting stuff happening here. So we are so once that report comes out, there's going to be tons of webinars, tons of infographics which will also be floated around. that will all give a lot of ammunition to companies to start adopting baseline, see the value of multi-party coordination using ZKPs. So that's about it.
And can I
You would like
add
to
for
add?
the
Yeah, Sonal.
for the IDC report, we are still looking for sponsors. So we are in our
Yeah.
outreach phase still. We have not started the study, but we do have our general scope planned out, and we have members within our outreach work group contacting organizations in the space who have been watching baseline, contributing, or have relevant focuses on multi-party coordination. So once we reach our 5 sponsors, we will begin that study, and hopefully at some point in 2023 we can publish that research, and it'll really paint the picture on why standards and protocols like baseline are going to be very valuable in the future. So yes, if you're interested in sponsoring through your organization, or you have ideas of companies in mind, please reach out to us on Slack or any other medium.
Yeah. Please do bear in mind, you can also nominate others. You can also connect us to others. If you cannot participate or sponsor, you can become a participant on the survey. So there are going to be at least over 600 to 800 companies we would like to reach out to, or respondents we would like to reach out to for the survey. So if you cannot bring in the sponsorship money to pay the fee, at least bring in your intellectual property, which is giving responses to the survey that we would like to run. Okay, so that's on the IDC report and the exciting work that we do in the technical steering committee. The more important one, which is coming, the planning for the next year. That's very, very critical, and it is coming in maybe the next couple of months. Okay, so with that, I would like to invite our guest today. We have Sristhi. Sristhi is currently in New Delhi, but she is a pretty global person. She's a friend from the industry. We've been chatting since a long time on various things blockchain. She co-leads the India chapter for Hyperledger. She's also very recently picked up the position of the co-chair. Sristhi, are you co-chair of the APAC IEEE blockchain committee?
Region lead.
Regional lead, yes. So you are regional lead for the APAC. I'm sorry, you're doing so many things. I get confused each time. I'm so sorry, but this is actually exemplary. How you manage doing open source work, your present work with settlement. You're a director of sales. You're handling 3 regions, if I'm not wrong.
I'm managing India, and I'm taking care of US also.
India and US. So
Yeah.
that's like, half of the world. Okay, so you're doing that, and then you're also you publish so many papers, you publish research, you are also giving so many talks, and you're also a working mom. I mean, how do you manage doing so many things, especially the open source work for which there is no immediate incentive?
Yes.
We're going to start with that because you please inspire more people to come in.
Yeah, so I think it comes more from passion. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this session. I think this has been long due. We've been chatting for a while and on various topics, like you mentioned. And it's been like over 7-8 months, and I've seen the tremendous work that you've been doing with baseline protocol. So yeah, and then of course, to your question, is I think it's more from the passion actually, Samrat, because I started my journey in 2020. Was working more in the real estate sector, and I was more in the technology side, where I was helping my clients on the solution engineering. And this was one of the technology which I run through, and it really got my interest, so much so that I got moved full time into this, and then of course I started with, of course, settlement starting its India presence. So one of the early founding members with settlement along with our CEO. And but yes, I think the engagement is more from the passion which I'm having, and how it's evolving, and more so that there's so much question around the technology, so much objections actually around the potential of the impact to business models or impact to customers. But it's so in depth Like for me, getting into more from the protocol angle, how the layer ones or layer twos have been designed and how the cross communications is happening. Something like what we're working in baseline is multi-party coordination, and then ZKPs, and there's so much amazing work happening. And I think it's a responsibility of the industry peers to contribute, especially when this technology is at a stage where it's moving towards maturity. I see that another 5 to 6 years, we would be one of the chosen technology and not evangelizing for solutions.
Enough and evangelizing.
Yeah, evangelizing. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Blockchain is over evangelized, Look at Dubai. Okay, yeah. So jokes apart, so tell us a little more about settlement. What settlement does, what you do, what and some of the interesting projects that we've been talking about. Only talk about things which you can talk about in public.
Yeah.
Don't get in trouble.
Yeah. So yeah, like the same thing. I think our founders like Matthew and Roderick, they were more from the financial industry, and they realized that the enterprises are actually facing a lot of trouble in adopting the technology, because it's a very complex technology, where even putting a simple application in place requires multiple modules, multiple interactions. And querying and a application which would implement a business logic would mean a lot of cost and huge timelines. And as we know that the impact in terms of ROI was not certain. So that's how we started Settlement as a no code platform, where essentially we are solving the problem for enterprises to deliver the applications across multi chains in the shortest period of time, and that too enterprise grade applications. So the platform is SOC Type 1 compliant. So yeah, that's what we're doing, and we are wanting to work with enterprises as well as public sectors, positioning ourselves more of like the AWS of clouds. So be the middleware where people can come on to our platform and build various applications, irrespective of the sector, irrespective of the chain. So currently we're supporting 8 protocols, including permission networks as well as public networks. So that's what we are doing essentially with Settlement, and how we are engaging with different customers.
Can I call it the Canva of blockchain?
Yes, definitely. So how we say, like, the Stripe for payments, for WordPress for website, Settlement for blockchain.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Could you explain to our listeners and viewers how you're different from bridges, and how you're managing one question that I definitely have is how you're managing your liquidity positions, because that's critical, and I presume you're not trustless, right? Your interop network is fully permissioned.
Okay. So I'll take it one by one. First, we are an application provider, like an implementation service provider. When you talk about bridges, that's something which we can essentially do, because when you talk about bridges or interoperability, it means more of an interaction between two networks. So we are not a network layer as such. We are a middleware which is going to leverage protocols underneath it. So it can be Ethereum, it can be Binance Smart Chain, it can be Polygon, it can be Besu, Hyperledger, it can be Corda, any of those. So, and if you want to build an application, so let me give you an example of a recent work we have done with the Central Bank of India. Right? So what they require was an interoperable network between two banks, where essentially an issuance of letter of credit is being done. So we have developed the application on our platform, and we have also ensured the interoperability between the two networks, enforcing the business logic involved, which is the issuance of LC, right? So there is an advising bank, there is an issuing bank, and there is a negotiating bank. So that's the first part of your question. When you come to the second talk, when you talk about the liquidity, liquidity happens more in protocols, right? When you have your tokens and when you maybe have a CDP in case like someone like MakerDAO or anyone who has a DeFi app. We are an application builder. So when you come to us and you say that, okay, Srishti, today I want to build a DEX. And I want to start with trading multiple tokens. So not only USDC, USDT. So then we will help you build that. We will build the application for you and also ensure the liquidity. So liquidity will be ensured using liquidity pairs against their smart contract logic. So that's all programming. So we will do that for you. And you make it easy because we have certain tools and service offerings as a part of the platform, which is going to simplify the workflows, whether it's hosting of nodes, whether it's writing of the smart contracts, whether it's integration with external applications like CRMs or oracles. So we will simplify that. So if you have any questions, Andreas, you can ask.
No, you know, it's like when you say settlement and you say interoperability, you know, I immediately go to bridges, right? I mean, that's a natural. It's like if you're basically a messaging layer between chains, yes, then you're you know, like Kafka on steroids.
Yeah. So how I'd like to envision this for you to make it simple. So for example, you say that I want to do a sandbox POC for say a cross-border payment, right? That would involve interoperable networks, that would involve liquidity if you're doing tokens. We would be using our platform to build that for you, starting from the microservices, the hosting of the cloud, the platform, the node involved, and the business logic. And then, of course, integration. When you talk about the front end, right, there has to be an interaction with the user. So all that all the complex flows we will take care of.
Okay. No, I just wanted to understand how that is achieved, especially for a letter of credits where you have DBP, right? So you need to escrow the funds. So anyway, all good. No, I just out of pure curiosity, just wanted to
and I wish that there is a day when we're talking about settlements solution on this show, where we say that the easy button for baselining is go to settlement and start baselining. You know, let's aim for that, Srishti. Okay, so in this may be a moot question, but which protocols are people mostly using while you're doing this work?
Yeah, so I think the choices are varied. I think when we go for the permission networks, the ruling one would be it would be either Ethereum client like Hyperledger Besu, or it would be Fabric. And nowadays we're doing a lot of work with Polygon Edge. So, and undoubtedly on the POS side, on the mainnet, it's mostly Polygon because of the low transaction cost. And then of course, some you're also doing on Binance Smart Chain, but yeah, majorly it's Polygon.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Srishti, I've got a quick question. Do you have any of the potential partners or prospects that you're looking at that right now are using EDI and just manual processes on either end, but EDI for messaging? Are you running into any of that? Just because I have a lot of people saying, "Oh, what you guys? It's fancy Kafka. It's almost like messaging and stuff. And how's that different from EDI?" And I'm like, "How much time do you have?"
We also get that question. when we talk to our clients with the supply chain ecosystems. I think what we need to tell them from an ecosystem standpoint is that if you will weigh out a traditional or distributed tech, not a traditional one, a distributed tech with the blockchain ecosystem, more from the cost and the scalability perspective, blockchain would be an ideal business case because, even from a simple math point, if there are more than 4 to 6 participants in a use case, then the interactions in a peer-to-peer would be much more streamlined than if you're having a distributed interactions with even if you're ensuring API interactions, the cost would be much higher. And of course, it would not be that scalable. Now, when you move to a peer-to-peer, not only do you streamline that, that's number one. Secondly, of course, there can be so many varied features to the application, which of course are limited right now because of regulations not being there. But if we are able to actually do that in a couple of 2 years, I mean, I've also written about US regulation moving towards the digital assets. So we are able to tokenize the supply chain assets and, move it. So we are already doing that in applications with respect to tokenizing an instrument or an asset. But if you're able to add a value to that and then transfer the value, a store of value, all on the same transparent record, which would be secure because of, since it's blockchain and it's using extensive cryptography, I think that's where the phenomenal benefit of using blockchain or DLT either.
Okay, super. And Srishti, there were some really interesting projects that you were talking about when we were having a sync up call. So would you like to educate on some of the work that you've done with settlement and elsewhere, which you feel it's sort of leading towards enterprise adoption, and why people will have data sharing or multi-party coordination issues? I mean, we'll come to the issues part, but first, let's hear some interesting implementations that you've done recently.
Absolutely. I'd love to talk about one in detail, actually, and that's very close to my heart because I've front-led that, and, from the point of conceptualizing to delivery and now moving towards production networks. So we've worked with Uttarakhand State and in the medical colleges, essentially in India, in a lot of them, even majority of them, digitization is also missing. So you have equipments which are of very high value in the medical hospitals, and those assets, the record keeping and the issuance is not happening right in even digitally. So what we did was we actually for a POC, not only did we digitize, we used blockchain technology. What we did, and with a larger vision of providing the benefit to the end customer. So I'll go in detail. What happens is in Uttarakhand State, there are 7 medical colleges, right? And each college has their own hospitals, and there's a lot of equipment which is stored, which includes the critical equipments like X-rays and scanners, but also the consumables. So the issuance, the consumption, and the redemption of any kind of asset is being marked on a blockchain. So we're eradicating the silos, something which would be, very beneficial with baseline also, because there are multiple participants within a medical college ecosystem only, where you are having a central repository, you are having sub stores, you are having an admin, and then you're having warehouses, and there is also college issuance happening.
Issuance as well, yeah. I
And
remember there was similar work which we were conceptualizing. I can't reveal the exact department of the government of India, but there was this huge workshop which we did as part of Accenture strategy when I was there. So that was like the most phenomenal workshop that I did while I was in Accenture. That the whole day we did design thinking, and yeah, I mean, these were the issues with, and particularly with them, and I'm sure you would have also faced similar things in Uttarakhand. So for perspective of people on the call, it's one of the largest states. It is very resource rich, but has a lot of green land as well, a lot of hills, mountains, etc. So connectivity is an issue sometimes to
Right,
the remote
right.
areas. I'm sure you would have also faced the same thing.
So when we started this POC, this is really funny, Samrat, but I think the first request which came from the secretary and the Department of Medical Equation, where the people who were using the technology says, please give us computers and give us a network line. So, so with this implementation of this POC, before that, they ensured that they are having the PCs and the connectivity is mentioned.
So
So
these
these are
days,
real time.
just skip through directly to Web3. They skip the Web 2 part.
Directly to Berkeley. And it's such an amazing solution. What they've done, actually, they're going to integrate it with a hospital management system. So the recording of patient data, the prescription, everything would be linked with the assets. So not only is it preventive maintenance of assets, but with a larger vision of helping the end user, the citizens, where the citizen can within the state have coherent data of health record management. So yeah, so that's one of the very interesting use case which we have which I have worked on, and 6-8 months we have worked on that, and now we are going for a production network. Hopefully that should be approved by the government. That's one, of course, and like I mentioned, for RBIH, that's another use case that we've done. Then also we have worked with Trident Group, with one of our partners, where we've done a traceability solution for yarn to fabric. So something like where these typical scenarios of data silos even within the organizations, authorizations, missing authorizations, validations within the organizations, and these were checks that which we have actually delivered in the pilot. So it's a 3M validation, actually, as we call it. It's a man, material, machine validations. So who is the person who's working on the transformation of the fabric, how much material is being consumed, and which machine is being used. All that data is being recorded, and then there is an end-to-end traceability with the sales order to the SKU which will be produced. So that's small POC that we have done in the supply chain realm. Many others, actually. If you
talk about the seed program as well for the government. So I mean, when you talk about government projects, I think it's particularly interesting because any government project, however small it may be in India, it can still cover a country, elsewhere. So so what was the seed
Yeah,
program?
so
Can
I
you talk
think
about that?
that's a phenomenal win for us, because that's the Jharkhand state has been the first state in India which has rolled out a seed traceability application to the end farmers. So the problem statement here is, which we are aware, that there's a lot of corrupt counterfeit happening on the seeds. There's no traceability. Farmers are the one who actually have to face the root of all the disruptions in the supply chain. So what we've done is that we've earmarked 2 applications here. One, there is a traceability on the blockchain where the Ministry of Agriculture in Jharkhand is involved. So from the time the agriculture department moves to the district officer, then there is a movement to the warehouse, a supplier and distributor, then it moves to the farmer. So the entire traceability is marked on a blockchain, and the farmer has been provided with a mobile app where the farmer will be onboarded with an OTP validation linked to the Aadhaar. And then it's very easy for him. So for him, it's a native application, right? Because he's just using an iOS, Android application. And he can see that, okay, this seed is being supplied to me from this supplier. And this was the date.
Seed supply has now been linked to the national ID.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. That's interesting. Can you talk a little bit about data privacy in that context, especially, in light of the recent, Indian Supreme Court rulings about data privacy rights of individuals vis-a-vis that traceability? And also, I'd just be curious, the rationale for tracking all of that stuff on chain, which is a priori doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. but that's just me, you know.
No, I think that's quite, I think, Andreas, I think that's coming from your experience, because your questions are quite relevant. So of course, when we architect the design for any problem or any solution, we have to kind of investigate what are the application components which would be put on chain and which would be put off chain. When we say off chain, we essentially would not use a database, but we use a decentralized system like IPFS, interplanetary file systems, where data is recorded in a very secure manner. And then the proof of record is stored on the blockchain. So the movement and would be earmarked on the blockchain. So of course, it's supplemented with a web application, which is user authenticated, and the access control would be in that manner. And with respect to data privacy, second part of your question, what we've ensured here is that for the data would be encrypted and would be stored in the IPFS, and the hash would only be present over there. So that those are the measures that we have taken for the data privacy perspective.
So how do you ensure then the right to be forgotten for individuals that are withdrawing consent?
So for consent for sharing of data?
Yeah, just simply for recording it, you know, the data privacy right means that I need to give, you know, it's very similar to now.
GDPR,
please
yes,
correct
yeah,
me if I'm wrong, but it's very similar to GDPR. It has this right to be forgotten, and then it also has the same question of data correlatability. And if an individual withdraws consent, you know, you have to provide proof that the data has been removed. Now, if you're storing it, I presume on a private IPFS instance, not on a public one, how do you ensure and how do you prove that the data actually has been removed from the network?
So one is that the network, of course, the IPFS is a private instance which is hosted by our platform. And with respect to consent of the participant, we, you know, while onboarding them, that's an approval kind of thing that we have taken from them.
Sure. No, I can withdraw consent though anytime if I want to, right?
Yeah, I think for this aspect I'll have to check. I'm not sure.
No, I'm just saying this is really tricky because using, that's why I'm saying it's like, why you're going on chain, why you're doing stuff that is like fully persistent, because of that issue, because of the correlatability, and like, why not use something like, you know, verifiable credentials that are linked, etc., and allowing things to be stored on individuals' devices that are then sharing the data across on an as needed basis.
So
Just
actually, no,
just
the focus
my
is, I understand. You know, if the lens is from the privacy perspective and from the end customer, that's a separate angle. But the lens over here is the problem statement which the department is facing. With
I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, with respect to transparency in the supply chain, as well as a lot of counterfeit happening within the movement of goods from the supplier to the distributor, even from the warehouse to the distributor, and recording that at each level on a blockchain, a record which would not be tampered, is the problem statement we are trying to solve for. The extension of it, where most of the objections are focused, is actually being provided because of the users not being crypto native, and the farmers, of course, you know, if they want to see and that's just a user experience, right? It's more of a customer experience, so that they can have an insight into where the supply is and what are the payments. Both of the things are there, right? Because for them, it's very difficult to even understand how many kgs of seed I had taken before, and how much payment did I get, and what is the next slot which would be coming to them. So for them, it's a blessing actually. So all the data is
Yeah.
coming to them through the mobile app which they are using. So yeah.
So they are actually the bottom of the supply chain for food, right? So they're making the least amount of money on the food that we consume. And this, I'm sure, Sristhi, the project contributes into the Prime Minister's larger vision of doubling or quadrupling farmers' income. That was something which was announced, I think, a couple of years back.
Mm.
And I'm sure this will go a long way in bringing them on board, to digital initiatives and driving some increase in their actually bringing transparency, right? They get what they deserve, right? I think that's something which has been missing all this while.
And there's a lot of other work actually, Samrat, because recently I was also at a conference in Mumbai, and um, our finance minister had also mentioned. So there's an RBI has also introduced the green bonds and the Kisan initiatives which are being done, specifically for the farmers, because these are the people actually who are, the benefit should definitely reap down to them.
Yeah. You're
And these
talking
are
about the
still
Global
levels.
Fintech Fest, right?
Yeah.
You were talking about the Global Fintech Fest.
Yeah, Global Fintech Test.
Everybody was there.
Yeah.
At some point I was also thinking of booking a ticket and going there, and because everybody is calling, where are you, it's why don't you share some learnings from there? What's happening, what was the top three things that you think were most interesting and we should all know about?
I think for the global fintech phase, one is of course this the kind of work which we have heard from the finance ministry for the green bonds. Second is the work which NPCI is doing. NPCI is doing phenomenal work. They already have a platform where they are collaborating with the banks for different use cases, and this is in separate with the IBIC which is happening, right? So this is a separate initiative. They're also doing some. They've not divulged much, but they're also doing some work on the NFT fronts, and they've launched a metaverse product, which was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which was there.
Okay. Just
Yeah.
for perspective again, so NPCI is National Payments Corporation of India. It's like the biggest payment authority which got created in India, and it created one of the world's cheapest payment systems, cheapest operational cost across the world, and it's now being adopted in other countries as well. Right, Sristhi?
Yeah.
Did you catch how many countries are using it now?
I have heard of two other. I think France they've started. UK they've started. Rest I don't know, but it's
somewhere in
like
Africa
every 2
also
or 3 months. Some other country is adopting the UPI.
Yeah. So NPCI is doing wonders, and especially with the low to zero cost sort of payments that they've enabled within the country. So yeah, phenomenal. So if anybody is watching us who's from NPCI or can connect us with NPCI, do that. We want to get somebody from NPCI on the baseline show as soon as we can. There are tons of use cases which can be enabled with NPCI. We would love to interface with you. Okay, Srishti. So coming back to you, since you've seen so many industries, you spoke about agri, you spoke about supply chains, you spoke about very high tech stuff as well. So what has been your experience in terms of data silos and data sharing trends? Where do you see, pick up any industry which you're comfortable with, but where do you see the data gets logged and not shared, or there are opportunities getting missed, or there is cost of errors, there is reconciliations, etc., which cause a lot of delays, etc. So can you talk about anything which on those lines?
Yeah. So I think, Samrat, the first thing is that we've all realized that data is the new oil. I mean, that's why everybody is working towards that, and that's why when we say that with blockchain we're actually digitizing money, assets, value. So that's definitely one thing. But when we talk about data silos, Samrat, I think across industries, there's a lot of potential. We've spoken about supply chains where it's an inevitable use case of data not being shared. And there can be various reasons. Of course, there are not ecosystems, there are privacy concerns, there are trust issues, and also scalability issues which are there, which leads, and if we are able to solve for this problem, of course, there can be multiple benefits, right? ROI would be a very small thing. There could be a linking for retractability, of course, so they're already working for that. Some, even SAP provides some solution, but
Yeah.
then end to end with the ecosystems, that one, but also reducing the increasing the efficiencies with respect to reconciliations, right? So like we were talking in our chat, something like freight forwards, and the downstream supply chain, right? Where you have your
Yeah.
transport and distributors. And that
Yeah.
this is such a common problem that I've discussed with great logistics players in India, whether it be the big names, the startups, Blackbug, Ecom, I've discussed with all of them. And this is like a pain point. If we are able to actually solve for this problem in a scalable way, which would also be secure, like an enterprise grade application, which has set of standards, right? Like what Baseline has, which is following a set of a framework. It's a big win for sure. That's
Super, super,
in the
super.
supply
Thank
chain.
you, Srishti. And since you, sorry,
Samrat, hold on for a second. I would just like to have a follow-up question here. Since you mentioned settlement, data privacy, so I would be and because the baseline protocol, right, is about privacy preserving multi-party coordination, or as it says, multi-party coordination under zero knowledge. So can you talk a little bit about how have you employed zero knowledge technologies, and what are you seeing currently in your work in terms of adoption, or is that still where people are going to go? Is that something, can I eat that, or is there simply, or is there a lack of trust in the technology, because it basically says it's like, here's the proof that this is true, but you can't see anything, right? So it's like, so that ultimate human thing, trust but verify, that is based on visual confirmation. What's your experience there? Can you share that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Andrea, I think there are two aspects to it. One is from a technology perspective, there are very few people who would actually know about zero knowledge proofs and how they can be employed, even in solutions, right? Because there's a lot of work, like we are having W3 standards, DIDs, and these self where we are having SSID solutions which are being used, where we are able to share partly the information, and those are frameworks which we're using for privacy standards, where we've also worked and delivered solutions for trade finance use cases with one of our clients in APAC region. But I might be wrong here, but this is from my experience and my client interactions, that in the business applications, there is less usage of zero knowledge proofs happening currently. But of course, technologically, even from the perspective of privacy, this is of course a better solution. And we would definitely like to explore this. We are in talks with Polygon for the Hermes also, trying to understand the frameworks and how we can utilize this and help our clients. And definitely, this would definitely, I've requested Samrat also that we would like a technical demo of the product.
Absolutely. I think that was one commitment to Srishti which I made before I invited her here, that we should do we should pitch to Srishti that why she should get involved with Baseline. We would definitely want to have a leader like yourself, Srishti, on board with us. And also, you're so close to clients, you can get us the first production implementation. I'm very hopeful of that.
You cannot do global supply chain traceability without zero knowledge proofs and not violating WTO regulation. That's basically in one statement. If you want to have supply chain traceability compliant with WTO regulation, you need zero knowledge proofs. If you can show me how you can verifiably trace trace everything without violating WTO rules, go ahead. I haven't seen that. I know that U.S. Customs is going full steam into the WTO rule violation, because they will require that you register a product, a physical product that can be sold to the US with CBP. If you're not, then it will sit on a ship forever and never, or they will not let that in. And that's like a timeline of 3 to 4 years. So
Mhm.
it's like this is going to come to a head very, very, very soon. And unless logistics providers, companies are not actively engaging that, you will have a global shit show, because CBP is pretty hard. They're like, you don't have that, you didn't register your product, it's on the boat sitting there. It's like, it can't, ain't gonna come in here, or we'll get to it when we get to it. It's very
Yeah, so
simple.
I
And I happen to know that
completely
because
agree.
I actually work with them.
And
So
these are the areas which we should explore potentially with Srishti on a follow-on call.
And this
I
is
would
the true
definitely-
value proposition,
Yeah.
Sampath, actually,
Totally.
irrespective. And it's not only supply chain. I would definitely suggest that also work on the insurance sector.
Mhm.
Because even in the insurance sector, the multi-party validation is a very strong use case. And if we have ZK circuits taking care of the privacy concerns, so it's I think a very good solution for our clients.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was a pretty amazing discussion we had today. Srishti, do you have any closing thoughts for us, or any comments on the baseline protocol in general?
I think it's an amazing architecture, and the problem we are trying to solve is I think the first thing which I shared to you on the phone also, that Samrat, this is something we are doing for our clients day in day out, and this is a protocol that you've made, and I was not aware of what. I mean, of course, I'm seeing you doing a lot of work and we chat, but we've not gone in depth into the value that you're adding to the ecosystem. And what you're actually doing is we spend hours of work with our developers in coding that, identifying, and just before this call also I've worked on something similar for a client. So I think it's really a good work that you're doing, and I would definitely like to support baseline protocol, and that's why I said that let's get a technical demo done so that we can understand more how we can work closely.
Awesome. For our viewers, we've recently done baselining for actually we did baseline for Excel last year. We've recently done baseline currently, and we did a game for explaining people zero knowledge proofs a few days back called Battleship. Okay, so with that, we are good to close today's episode, guys. Any other questions for Srishti before we let her go?
I don't think so, but it was a great conversation. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was you have the combination of all the things we cover here with the standards, supply chain, multi-party coordination, Web3. So it was awesome having you here.
Great. Thank you, Sonal, and thank you, Andreas. Really good questions, and I would really like to learn from you about the ZK proofs and what you spoke about.
Super awesome. Thank you very much, Srishti, once again for taking time out and speaking to us today. We look forward to our interactions in the future. Thank you everyone for watching us today. Do keep sending us your questions via Slack, and do join our community. With the show links, we will also post the various links for our community channels. Do hit us up on LinkedIn as well. It's it's a time to contribute. It's time to collaborate, and do look out for the announcements. Do check out the announcements for the elections as well, and the nomination process. Thank you once again. This is Samrat signing off. Keep baselining.